And our first session is with Catherine Capps, who is the current president of Blue Jacket Toastmasters and also the district administrative officer. Her session is Pathways, a Journey Along a Path. With no further ado, Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dan. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pathways and a Journey Along a Path. So I'm super excited about Pathways, and here's why. Because I am seeing how it can take us from where we are currently as communicators to where we dream of being. My main goal for the session this evening is to show you that Pathways can work well for you. Now, it's likely that the people present this evening could be divided into three rough groups. There is the first group of people who maybe haven't even started a path yet. Then there's a second group that's somewhere along the first path. And then there are others of us who've completed a path, or maybe even several paths in certain cases. Well, regardless of where you come in that mix, my hope is that you will leave tonight with some ideas for how you can not only successfully manage a path, but more than that, to take advantage of the flexibility of the program, to personalize it and make it your own. And actually, hey, enjoy it along the way. So if time permits, at the end, after the presentation, we can talk for a while and even do some Q&A. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I am going to be referencing a document several times during the next half hour or so, which we're going to make available to you in the chat at the end of this, or towards the end of this session. But I am going to go ahead and now see if I can share my screen successfully with you all. Does everybody see this? I guess so.
We do.
Okay. So Pathways, a Journey Along a Path. The first, a path is absolutely doable and manageable. That's my first message for anybody who needs to hear that. How do you get skillful and confident in Basecamp and make it serve your needs? Several ways. So take advantage of our district's trainings, number one, which we could link in the chat for you. And other districts trainings. Some of you will have seen there are many of them out there on YouTube. Check out the Navigator, which is International's own means by which to train us in Basecamp. But most of all, I want to encourage you to spend time in Basecamp. The more time we spend in Basecamp, the more proficient we'll get. We will become fluent in it, we'll become comfortable, and we can become confident with it. That's where the game's at. Second point, use your club. Toastmasters clubs, they offer mentoring, camaraderie, and the example of fellow members who are just a few steps ahead of us on Pathways and in their Toastmasters journey. Hey, and consult with your club's VP Education or any of the other officers if you have questions that you need answered. So use your club. And then the third point here, develop a game plan for a path. Now, this is where I'm going to spend the majority of my time this evening. You can lay out a path from the get-go. So with any and all ideas for each project as you get them. I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'll be going over this in detail in the second half of tonight's presentation. Now, it's also very flexible and adaptable, I have found. So adapt the path to fit your needs. Personalize your path by choosing projects that you need to pursue, that will help you in your life, and topics that are meaningful and interesting to you. Then insert aspects of your own uniqueness. So what do I mean by that? Well, you can use your own life stories for most of these projects, and I would encourage you to do so, because that's one of the main ways that you can bring these projects alive for yourself. Then use humor, use your own style. Really, that's what listeners like. So if you make it your own like this, then you will increase your own motivation and your own enjoyment of it. All right, now the 11 paths that you can choose from dynamic leadership at the top here, all the way down to visionary communication. It will help you to get to know these abbreviations. You know, International uses these abbreviations in their education awards list, and they're used when they list a person's credentials behind their name, like PM5, SR2. So it's worth our while getting to know these. Now, bear in mind that although all paths, all these 11 paths, obviously teach communication skills, at least half of them also have a special focus on leadership. Before even signing up for a path, you can look at a path's learning curve to choose one that most closely fits your current needs. For example, here I have visionary communication on the left here, and then leadership development on the right. And these are the required projects for levels 3 here, 4 and 5. And these are the 3 main projects in a path which help to identify that path, to distinguish that path and make it unique from the other paths. So I encourage you to look at those when you're considering both the path before choosing it, and then also once you're on a path to help you plan ahead for what's coming up. So visionary communication, really quickly on the left here, all about communication. Develop a communication plan, communicate change, develop your vision, and communicate it. And then on the right, we have a typical or a heavily leadership-oriented path. So here, the required project for level 3, planning an event and implementing the plan. For level 4, leading your team in a project. And level 5, manage successful events. So all leadership-oriented. Now in Basecamp, you can look at all of the projects for each and every path. I have marked these 3 main projects, the required projects for levels 3, 4 and 5, just so you can see where they're located in Basecamp. So you see this one is here for dynamic leadership, the increasing knowledge, building skills, and you move this, demonstrating expertise, of course. Lead in any situation, I'm sorry. So this is the document that I will be making available this evening as a PDF and as a Word document. And it is a means by which we can plan out our paths. I have created a sheet like this for all 11 paths. The one you see in front of you is for presentation mastery, of course. I've broken down all 5 levels, here you see, into their individual projects. And this is how you can easily plan out a path for yourself. Now, for the next few minutes, we're going to pretend that you have signed up for this particular path, which is called Presentation Mastery, straight up communication, with an emphasis on public speaking. This, by the way, is a great path to start with if you have yet to choose a path. But now what? So you've chosen your path. What do we do next? First, of course, you go to Basecamp and you follow the directions that Basecamp gives to get you to your path. At this point, I like to start mapping out my whole path. Now, for my first path, I didn't do this. So I had to become familiar with the projects. But once you become familiar with them, and even before you are, you can view everything for yourself in Basecamp. All right, presentation mastery. Now, start charting out ideas now for what you might like to do for some of the different projects. If you are new to Pathways, you will need to take this slowly as you get familiar using the program. But once you become familiar with the levels and the kinds of projects that are coming up, you will find it tremendously useful to plan ahead. This is especially true for these larger projects in levels 3 and 4, which often take months of work. Here we are on the presentation mastery level 1. Level 1, by the way, is the same for all 11 paths. It's where you learn and practice the fundamentals. You will launch each project right here on the right-hand side where it says launch, on this blue bar here. And you will be walked through the materials for each of these projects, which each one culminates in at least one speech. So for level 1, as you see, there are 3 projects: icebreaker, evaluation and feedback, and researching and presenting. Now, for fun, I've decided that because this presentation is taking place at a conference and the theme of the conference is international, there will be a little bit of an international flavor to some of the projects that I choose for my pretend path here tonight. So first, the icebreaker, project number 1 on every path, designed to introduce you to your club. So for your icebreaker, here's an example in front of you. Maybe you could talk about how travel is important to you. You could walk your audience through a few of those significant trips. And let's fill that in right here on my little planner. So I would just go ahead and either type in or handwrite in what I was going to do for the icebreaker. There we go. A few of my favorite trips. Okay, project 2. Moving right along, evaluation and feedback. This is when you get to present a speech. Hey, it can be a speech on any topic, because that's not so much the point. The point is that you will be given feedback, then you apply that feedback to re-giving the same speech, or you could give a different speech, but applying that feedback. So you can talk about anything. Talk about your dog. and the big part that he plays in your life. And we'll go ahead and fill that out right here on our form Fido and the important part he plays in our family life. Next, on to the researching and presenting.
Can I ask, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Alison.
Okay, you know the evaluation and feedback. How would you write something about a dog that's evaluation and feedback?
You know, that's a great question. Can we just come back to that in a little while? And I'll just carry on with this right now. Thanks. That's a good question. Thank you, Alison. All right, level 1, researching and presenting. This is your third project. So you have a special interest in a certain country, perhaps. It could be a country where your ancestors originated, or a country you've always wanted to visit. Research and present on that country, for example. So here is France, where I had to live for several months during my student days because I studied French at that point. And we will go ahead and pretend that we're filling that out on the form, France. Okay, on to level 2. So you get into Basecamp, of course, again, it's all in Basecamp. You will launch the projects, again, 3 projects for this path and for every path. Toastmasters labels this level, learning your style. So that's the focus of this level. Now there are these 3 projects. One is the same across all paths, and that is this third one here, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. But the first one, Understanding Your Communication Style, the title speaks for itself. The second one here, Effective Body Language, is an elective. Actually, it's an elective in level 3 for all of the paths, but it's considered important enough by Toastmasters that it would be required in level 2 for presentation mastery. So level 2, first project then is going to be understanding your communication style. You know what I want to say? I absolutely love when I can use a Toastmasters project to help me in my real life, right? Isn't that great when that happens? You could use this project first to learn about yourself and your own communication style, but then apply it to a real life situation. So if it were me, I might analyze, say, a typical staff meeting at work and explain the different ways that people on staff actually demonstrate different communication skills and how that works, what that looks like in one of our staff meetings. That could be fun. And go ahead and fill that out on your form. Those staff meetings at work and how communication styles affect them. All right, on to effective body language. Helping you recognize your non-verbal communication and how using gestures enhances your speech, your communication generally, in fact. How much fun would it be to research how people in different cultures greet each other? And then act that out as part of a speech. So effective body language, and I'll write in here how people in other cultures greet each other. Introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. Talk about, I don't know, maybe talk about your first boss. You could talk about how the relationship started out very good and became very bad, and what you could have done differently if you had only had your life experience and if only you had had this project to help you with the relationship. And then on that worksheet, go ahead and fill out next to this project, my first boss. Level 3. Here we have, again, 3 projects. So for presentation mastery, your required project, listed right at the top here, persuasive speaking, very important for somebody who's learning to be a public speaker, of course. And then you will have to do a minimum of 2 electives, I should say. So you have to do 2 electives at least. All right, so the first one, persuasive speaking, the required one for presentation mastery. Well, what would you like to persuade somebody of? How are you going to choose a topic for this? What do you want to persuade anybody in your life about? Maybe you're a mom. Maybe you have a large family and you want to help your family understand the importance of doing chores. Hey, go ahead and use this project to help you develop a short talk that you can have with your family. Or in your workplace, maybe you would like management to adopt some new policy. Go ahead and use this project to help you practice what you would say. So, how to persuade them to give me a new position at work. That could be mine right now. Here are 14 electives. So these are the 14 electives for level 3 for each of the paths, although I did mention already that one of the electives was actually a mandatory in level 2 of this path, and that occasionally happens if Toastmasters thinks that one of these electives is important enough for a path to make it mandatory. But you have to pick 2 of them as electives. So here they are again. I wanted to list them out just to make them just that little bit clearer for you. As I say, the number 6 here, effective body language, I've put a strike through because that was already done for us in this path. Now, which ones do I want to choose for this path? Well, I know that I need to be a better listener. So I think I'll go ahead and do the active listening one here. For this, at a club meeting, you will listen carefully to the table topics and give feedback to each speaker. So active listening. And next, the elective 2, connect with storytelling. Well, I am becoming more and more aware of how powerful storytelling is and how much people enjoy a good story. So I think I want to practice this one more. You tell any story. It can be a story from your life. It can be a fictional tale of your own creation. You can even give your own rendition of Cinderella if you want to. For this, you might like to make it a true story. Maybe the story about the night you spent in an airport. You had to sleep on a bench. The fire alarm went off because it was malfunctioning. So it went off several times. Anyway, whatever your story is, enjoy it. So here we fill in, connect with storytelling. And on to level 4, let's see how we can plan this one out. So again, you will get into Basecamp. You will see that this is level 4. Managing a difficult audience is going to be your required project for this path. And here it tells us we have to choose a minimum of 1 elective. And to find out more about the required project, of course, we activate and launch it here. And for the elective, likewise, review the details of the electives here. So it's a question of, again, doing a little research to find out what the projects entail and how you might like to address them. So we're going to pretend we're getting into the managing a difficult audience, the required one here. So for managing a difficult audience, you can give a speech on anything at all. That's not the point. The point is that people in your club, they will act like difficult audience members. They will be set up in advance, probably by the Toastmaster of the meeting, to purposely disrupt your talk. And then you are going to be evaluated not for the speech itself, but for how you manage the interruptions. That's a fun one. And it will be useful practice for somebody wanting to get into public speaking. We fill that out here on level 4 of our project planning paper. Any speech, maybe redo one of my earlier ones, make it easy on myself. And now for the elective. You will need to click on the drop down to peruse the materials again, activate and launch. Create a podcast, building a social media presence, write a compelling blog, manage online meetings, question and answer session, public relations strategies, manage projects successfully. Well, this time I think I'll go for building a social media presence. Now for this project, what you do is you learn how to use social media to promote yourself or to promote something else. Hey, I'm dreadful at promoting myself. I need the practice. And I've learned that with these projects, sometimes you just have to push yourself. And this is one I know I need to address. You could do a speech on making social media your servant. Why not? Maybe you could reactivate and revamp your old your old Facebook account. Why not? I remember I actually had a Facebook account 10 years ago when I wanted to track my teenagers at the time on Facebook. Maybe I just need to reactivate it and revamp it. So that's what I think I'll do maybe for this pretend project. Write it in here. Social media, maybe reactivate my Facebook account and revamp it. And woohoo! You're on to level 5 with the planning. Prepare to speak professionally is the required one here. And then there will be one elective. Now, I can tell you, if you aren't already familiar with these level 5 projects, they just take a little more thinking through, take some more work and preparation. And for some of these electives, even weeks or months of work. So this is where planning ahead really comes into its own, and you will be glad you did it. So the prepare to speak professionally, you activate it, you launch it. You need to decide on a message that you would convey as a professional level speaker. Now it's going to be an 18 to 22 minute keynote style speech. So my question is, what do you feel strongly about? What really counts for you in your life that you would feel motivated to do a keynote speech on? Or what do you specialize in that other people might benefit from? And it's worth just mulling that over for a little while. And again, because you're looking ahead, you give yourself opportunity to be thinking over, what do I really feel is a message that I have that would benefit people? And you don't have to decide now. You've got some weeks to think it through, discuss it with people. So what about this? The power of Toastmasters to help people. It's just an idea. And finally, the electives for level 5, which look like this in Basecamp. This is where you may be really glad, as I say, if you've planned several weeks ahead, because these projects do take extensive work, sometimes over a period of months, as I was already just saying. So I am choosing this one, I think, for my pretend path, leading in your volunteer organization. For this elective, you serve in a leadership role, either in Toastmasters or another volunteer organization for at least 6 months. If you strategize ahead for levels 4 and 5 of your path, as I'm suggesting you do, you might volunteer now, say, at the beginning of your path, for a leadership role, either at the club level or at the district level. And then you could use that, talk about that for this particular elective. And then, then you'll be giving your speech. I forget what the length of the speech would need to be for this project, but you could use serving in your club or serving at the district level for this level 5 elective. And you look ahead for 6 months, and that might just be useful to your path. So I'm going to write that in here, leading in my club as a vice president of public relations, for example, just an idea. Okay, woohoo! Reflect on that path. Reflect on how far you have come. Summarize the skills you've learned and celebrate your achievements. Present in a 10 to 12 minute speech. And yeah, I need to wait until you're done with a path before figuring out this speech. You have to look back on your path, obviously. Okay, looky here. Da-da. So you have a plan and you have some direction, and you can start to pick up some momentum and to look for opportunities for doing these projects in your real life or in Toastmasters, and for giving the speeches. And you know what one of the beautiful things is about planning ahead like this? You're not locked into it. This is simply to help you get creative and to help you manage your path and projects in such a way that you can create the momentum that you want, help yourself be motivated, and get the help that you're going to need for your path from other people. It's the way to go, but any of it is changeable at any point. So you're not locked into anything. So finally, this is the last thing I really need to present here. When you finish each level, you can view and print your certificate or certificates in Basecamp for each level. I just did a screenshot of each of mine here for one of my paths, and I just like to show those off. It's really fun to do that. I mean, to print them up. You can print them, you can frame them, put them on your wall at home, impress your family. So let me stop screen sharing now. All right, well, so I have mentioned several what I call UBL words. I noticed I was using a lot of UBL words in my talk when I was preparing it. I've said that the program is absolutely doable, it's manageable, it's flexible, it's adaptable, it's applicable potentially to your life, and it can be enjoyable. And I want to say, more than that, it's exciting. As I say, to take you from where you currently are as a communicator or leader to where you dream of being. And it could be one of the most fulfilling things that you do in your life. Honestly, I can tell you, I can vouch for the fact that that's what it's become for me. And you can use a path as a tool to help you with whatever you're passionate about. So therefore, yes, of course, it is worthwhile being in Toastmasters. And of course, it's worthwhile pursuing pathways. It's worthwhile working on each project. In my mind, Pathways has the potential to help you achieve your goals and even change your life. So let's just do what's desirable and valuable. Let's just do it. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Dan.